Good afternoon, friends. I got an email today from a meditation friend, a buddy that I started meditating with about 3 years ago. And even though he lives outside of the country now, we stay in touch by email. And he asked me a question that I thought was worth sharing with the wider Zen Happiness Project community. My friend struggles with food. He finds himself eating ultra healthy one day and then the next day binging out and overeating. He actually talks about this as being mindful in the action, but when he gets into a binge, he feels as if he's two people, almost watching himself lose control here. So his question specifically is stated, I'm wondering if you have any advice for my practice to find a balance from my strong desire to consume. Right now, my reflection is showing me that this cycle is causing me suffering. But how do I take that knowledge and apply it to a meaningful, sustained change? I love that he framed the question this way because we talk about this a lot at the Zen Happiness Project. What are the actions that I can take? What are the concrete steps that I can take to make my life better, right? So I'm going to get to those steps in just a minute, but I want to start it with a little bit of what my experience in this area has been. Back in 2009, shortly after I started meditating regularly, I realized that sitting in meditation was quite uncomfortable. And I felt great tightness in my chest. I couldn't cross my legs and sit in lotus or half lotus position. And what I realized was I was literally too heavy to sit and meditate comfortably. It was actually about 55 pounds heavier than I am today. This awareness of the discomfort that was happening when I was meditating was really the beginning of a journey for me that took about 2 years, but I lost 55 pounds. I got a lot more intentional about my food, and I've seen the way that a healthy diet can support my life and society that I care about. So one of the things I really came in conflict with when working around the concept of how to eat and how this applies to my practice is there was a very clear line in the sand here. And my friend refers to it in his email question. There's my logic, my desire, my altruistic hope, my ideal version of myself over here. And then there's my base instinct, my desire that seems to control my life, that seems to almost take over and takes control of the situation even when I don't want it to. And that became a really great place for me to practice in. For about 2 years, I really looked at my food and cut out all meat, most dairy, ate really a pretty strict plant-based diet. And it wasn't because I didn't love meat or cheese. It was really because I had looked at some of the statistics out there. I know that meat and cheese contribute to obesity and other health problems. There's all kinds of literature out there about not just heart disease, but cancer and other issues. Also discovered along the way that beef consumption has some pretty serious environmental impact. There's even impact on the grain prices in developing countries because of how much grain we feed cattle in this country. So here my food was bad for my physical health, bad for the environment, and was affecting poor people's ability to feed their families. So I had all these wonderful logical ideas over here that I wanted to honor. And then I had my desire over here. I love a Five Guys cheeseburger. A cheese pizza from my favorite pizza shop is like heaven on earth, right? So how do I weigh those two things? How do I choose between them, right? So I would suggest to my friend here that this practice takes a great deal of effort. So the good thing is, it seems like my friend has moved through the steps of pre-contemplation where we don't quite know yet that there's a problem, but we're suffering from the problem. He got into contemplation. He's been thinking about this. We've been talking about it by email for a while. He's started to take some action, but he's really looking for maintenance. What's the next step? What sort of establishes this practice solidly in his life, right? So I have a few concrete suggestions that I think might be helpful in this situation. The very first of which is to continue with your meditation practice. right? We need this baseline awareness, this self-awareness that comes with sitting still, with really seeing our life clearly, the benefits that come from a daily meditation practice, right? If we're not aware of what's happening, there's no way we can change it, right? So maintaining that meditation practice being the first challenge. The second suggestion is just recognizing that this is going to be very hard, right? People all around the world know what it's like to struggle being on a diet, right? We have temptations, there's food around constantly, portions are too big, we're rushed, we're hurried. It's just easier to eat garbage than it is to prepare a good and healthy meal, right? So recognizing that we're entering into a process that's going to be difficult, that's going to be challenging, it's not going to be easy to change these habits. This is a very important first step because it encourages us to put a lot of effort into this, to give ourselves a lot of tools to be successful. I'm going to suggest a few more tools here. But we can't enter into working with something like eating a healthy diet versus the desire to binge eat without recognizing that this is challenging. It's going to require a lot of help, right? One of my favorite suggestions for anything like this, especially something difficult that we need to sustain over a long period of time, is to get a partner, right? Somebody we can check in daily with, maybe somebody we can share a food journal with, somebody that we can touch base by email or phone call in the evening and just share what our experience has been, right? There's all kinds of great literature out there that shows that group support is a great way of tackling these challenges. Weight Watchers is actually an international phenomenon built around the idea of a support group at its core. Right? We have 12-step recovery programs that have the same model. People get around in a room, share their challenges, and then inspire each other to do a little bit better. Right? So third tip is getting a partner. Really encourage people to try to build a routine around something like this. The idea of establishing a morning affirmation. I start out my day after my meditation practice in the morning. I have a long list of affirmations, sort of ideals that I'm striving for, that I speak out loud, I give voice to. And my intention is to shape my actions through the rest of the day by reminding myself of the ideals, right? So creating a routine in the morning, kind of reminding ourselves of the exercises we're going to encounter through the day is a valuable suggestion. One of the things we talk a lot about, and I did my research for my master's in education, and I'll include a link in the details to some research about this, is writing our commitments down. Right? The simple act of saying, today I will be healthy, I will eat 3 vegetables and 3 servings of fruit, and I will avoid the pizza. The simple act of putting pen to paper and making that commitment to ourselves really dramatically improves our chances of being successful in that effort. Another thing I'm going to recommend here is to really recognize that this is a practice. Right? We eat multiple times a day. We eat every day. We're going to be eating every day for the rest of our life. Right? This is a space that we're going to be continued to be challenged in. So we cannot set unrealistic expectations for ourselves and set a high bar that says once I relapse, once I make a mistake and I eat something I'm not supposed to, I'm going to throw this whole effort out the window. Right? This is a practice. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be perfect. We're going to try again and again. Right? So recognizing that this is a practice, something that we're going to have to encounter over and over again, is really valuable. One of the things I didn't read from the emails, my friend recognizes that he does pretty well when he's in his routine, but he has challenges with food when he steps outside of his routine. And my recommendation for that is we need to create a plan. Right? We can visualize these scenarios, we can talk about it with our partner, we can write down our plan, and we can execute it when we get there. So if we know we're going to a situation where there's some potential challenge for us around food, we can spend a little bit of time getting ready and then execute our plan once we get there. We can't expect ourselves to combat desire unprepared, right? We have to have a plan. So this idea of having a partner is really valuable because we can say, geez, I'm going to an office birthday party and I sincerely doubt there's going to be any fruit there. It's really a cake and donuts crowd. I guess for my plan, I'm going to have a healthy granola bar before I go in. Maybe I'll volunteer and bring some fruit. So whatever the scenario is that you and your partner can come up with, sort of really having a plan, taking the time to make a plan, and recognizing you need a plan to be successful in those kind of places is really important. Journaling is a really valuable tool. Right? For anybody who's a chess player, you know that after you do a little bit of studying and you learn some tactics, the best way to improve your game is to really study your game, right? So at the end of the day, to put pen and paper, to review something like a food journal, to analyze our successes and failures and try to draw some lessons out of that is the only way that we can really see what we're doing. And it's going to be a little difficult at first, right? We make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. We're going to see the same mistakes over and over. It can be easy to be tough on ourselves. But if we practice acceptance, if we recognize that this is part of the growth, that it's a practice that's going to take some time, we can really give ourselves permission to learn from these failures and to not have to repeat them in the future. The last thing I'd say is a practical piece of advice is recognize that you're not alone, right? So many of us struggle with food, right? So many of us want to strive for and achieve an ideal that we find a little out of reach, right? You're not alone. Right? We can connect with others, we can grow together, we can get the support and encouragement that comes from a community effort. And hopefully a place like the Zen Happiness Project is somewhere where you can find that kind of support. So thank you, my friend, for asking about some practical tips for dealing with food. I love that you talk about this in the context of your meditation practice and really see it as a place to work with desires and logic and self-improvement. And hopefully this video response was helpful for giving you a few tips on how to move forward. Good luck, my friend.